Peace and blessings. This is Misal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, coming at you once again with another episode of Raw Talk. So today, it's been holiday season. I want to say happy Passover to all my people. We're celebrating for the Passover. And for other people, I guess Sunday was Easter Sunday. And looking at things with the coronavirus that's escalating, I thought it would be good to make a video about what we can learn spiritually from this pandemic. And one of the things I want to ask the religious leaders of the world is, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing? In the Milky Way galaxy, there's 250 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone. And there's millions of galaxies in the universe. And the clergy on earth have convinced us that the power that created the Milky Way galaxy, let alone billions of galaxies, is they administer to. So you administer to this power that created 250 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and there's millions of galaxies in the universe, and you can't cure a virus on Earth. Why? Why have we been trusting you for all of these years? Why have we been trusting clergy for the past century? There is a inherent power of prosperity and goodness, and those who teach goodness, their lives will be prosperous. However, the position that the religious leaders today are in is the same position that the politicians are in. You know, they really don't have an answer for the people. But then I have to ask, in the midst of this, there are some things that we can learn from the coronavirus spiritually that is not being administered by the church or religion in general. For example, race. Race is the religion of the New World Order. It's not really based on anything scientific, but the clergy had the opportunity before the coronavirus to advocate people understanding and respecting each other based on who they are rather than how they appear. But the clergy didn't seem to advocate that, despite some of the things that are said contradictorily in their holy books. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get it. Why they couldn't do that? You know what I'm saying? The clergy could have advocated for against police brutality um, in certain cases. Why they didn't do that? I don't understand. Not only in America, but throughout the world. They could have stood for something that would vindicate the greater good of humanity. For those who don't know, in the history of plagues, plagues usually run concurrent to the morality of the general public. However, instead of sticking on certain ground, they just supersede that and just go with whatever's going on. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, why are we putting all this money into this stuff and they don't have answers in times of pandemic? They can make you feel good. I can listen to a record to feel good. You understand what I'm saying? But what are they doing spiritually? For example, people talk about education in America should be free. It should be free colleges. Yeah, it should be free education. Perhaps if we tax the religious organizations that money could be utilized to pay for free education for the youth. However, if these religious organizations and clergy are a part or in partnership with the same power that created 250 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, why can't they just hold a congregation and just give the money and pay for the young people that attend their churches education? Some churches do this, but why why couldn't they just do it for everybody all across the board? You know what I'm saying? If they have that much faith, then why can't they have a faith fundraiser and pay? Why can't they do that? Why can't they encourage their membership to intermingle with people of all different walks of life? If America was on this grind, man, this would be a great place because, I mean, you can travel, but you got people in this country from everywhere else in the world, and people can make friends with people. And hey, man, my country is like this. When you go here, go see this dude. He'll help you out, that sort of thing. But instead of doing all of that, people think that they're better than other people. Interesting. But the clergy didn't intervene with that at all. So the question is, if they couldn't see this disease coming, then who are they really in touch with? You understand? That's what I don't get, because I know magicians and other people who saw certain things coming, and some of their stuff, their work can at least divert maybe a fatality or something like that. But when you have people who are told that, you know, you can do, you can eat whatever you want to eat, um, pretty much do whatever you want to do, live the type of lifestyle that you want to live, change yourself around, and it's all forgiven. That doesn't work when you're dealing with a underlying illness and you have a disease on top of that that could take you out. That doesn't work. But this is what these religious leaders have been telling us. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at it, there's a lot of people trying to do good through religion, they use religion as a tool to spread goodness, and that's good. However, sometimes you have to wonder what powers are they have behind them when they appear to be helpless or just following the protocol that is given to them by a worldly power, and they have to just fall in line. You know what I'm saying? The coronavirus is not a racist. The coronavirus doesn't deal with caste, genre, all those things that the clergy had time to rectify but hadn't. It doesn't deal with all those things. And then you got people so potty trained by these leaders that they come outside, grown men and women, and say the most stupidest things on earth. Oh, it affects everybody. I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is everybody. I did other videos. Half of these dudes in the country, regardless of how they look, are blood relatives. And I think on the level of DNA and the ancestral chart, the further you go back, the numbers increase. Everyone on Earth is at minimum 40th cousin, at minimum. But you're not teaching that. If you go back, like, I guess like 15, 16, 20 generations, you're looking at people, everyone has 262,000 direct ancestors. So why is there a chosen people or people claiming to only be the descendants of Abraham? Everyone's a descendant of Abraham because everyone is a descendant of everyone who lived in the previous age at this point. When you go back into the ancestral role, I did this in the prior video that you can check out, a video about African Americans and white Americans being related. You can look at the video and see the ancestral chart. However, I'm just trying to figure out why the clergy hasn't rectified this. You know what I'm saying? And people are putting money in the pot. One dude, he wanted to ignore what the government was doing, and then he he like didn't, he said his members are protected. He's a Pentecostal preacher. I forgot where he was at. I think I even did an article on this dude. And, he's talking all this kind of stuff. He's got 1,000 people in his church. And eventually I think, the state came down on him. Like, look, man, you got to stop having services or you're going to get arrested. You know, that sort of thing. The question is, he said that he had the power to heal the coronavirus, but you're only going to heal people in your church. So, what power are you really connected? And then we have to ask ourselves, if these powers are all good, why do we have to ask them to help? Someone good, you wouldn't have to ask to help. And perhaps this is what the coronavirus is teaching us. There's a parable, it's called the parable of a good Samaritan. And I don't follow that part of the scriptures or whatever, but everyone knows the parable and there's a lot of wisdom in it, you know. And basically, this guy was on the road. He got beat up by some robbers. And as he laid there on the road, the religious leaders at the time passed the dude by. The Pharisee passed him by. The Sadducee passed him by. And then there was a Samaritan who questionably may have not even worshiped the same God as the people of Israel did, came by and really much reached out to this guy and made sure that he got the proper help that he needed. There's an interesting thing about the Good Samaritan parable because a lot of people take it as to do good unto others, right? That's only the outer meaning of the parable. The parable actually reflects our inner selves. It reflects this man got beat up on the road by robbers. That's being in a depressed emotional condition. And when the Pharisee and Sadducee passed the dude by, they can still do that and be righteous because being righteous just means that you know how to obey a law. There was no law saying that you have to help somebody out on the road. So they can pass this dude by and still go up and teach in their respective religious houses, right? But the person who was not a scribe or a priest, the Samaritan, helped the guy out on the road. So what do we learn from all of that? What is the deeper meaning of all of this? Is that the person who was beat up on the road, that was our inner selves. And so a lot of times when people hold titles or religious titles, they're so infatuated with that title that they refuse to do work on their inner selves. And so the Pharisee and Sadducee, they felt good about who they were. They'd probably go in town and get complimented and everything like that. They good. People look up to them. They're they give advice to politicians. Sometimes politicians may have them in their team of counsel just to get insight on certain worldly affairs, or just maybe to vent or some advice or whatever, or just someone to talk to that's just kind of outside the political world, that sort of thing, right? Yet those same people are not working on themselves internally. You see what I'm saying? Because they're so righteous. And you see it not only in the clergy, but also in the New Age movement. You have people who, talk all this thing about the light. They don't even know that the term the light, I'm in the light. They don't even know that term actually comes from the light of Lucifer. That's where being in the light comes from. So when you hear people like, I'm in the light, Christ was also referred to as Lucifer. So either way you look at it, it means he was referred to as Lucifer in Revelation chapter 22, verse 16, where he says he's the bright and morning star. And the Greek word for that is Luciferos. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole other conversation about that class of angels, because that's what that was, a class of angels, the Luciferian angels. But in a long story, I don't want to darken it with all this crazy stuff. But in the long story, you have people, parties, branches, and they never get on with impoverished people. They just keep that light amongst themselves in the most fluent neighborhoods, having meetings and just ignoring people that they could reach out to and help them appreciate life. And it's that very same selfishness that has disabled the world long before a virus could. The world could be a much better place. But when you have people telling you to ignore what's going on in the heavens, the actual rotation of the planets and stars, and some people think that that's fictional. Like, how can something rotate around something and not be influenced by it? If you look at an atom, right? Let's say my hand, my fist, let me use this one, my fist was the nucleus of an atom. In the proportional distance of blowing an atom up to the size where the nucleus is the size of my hand, that proportional distance, you know how far the electrons will be that rotate around the nucleus? If the nucleus was the size of my hand, they would be 2 miles away. So, you know how far 2 miles away is from my hand at this point in time? But yet, that's the proportional distance of an atom on a microscopic level when you blow it up, where the nucleus is the size of my fist. And that still influences that. So when you look at the sun and all that sort of stuff, and now scientists have discovered that planets send signals to each other, that sort of thing. But for a long time, we was told by religious leaders to ignore those things. Just ignore what's going on around you. But then yet every holiday is in line with the spring solstice, the winter solstice, and just celestial events that happen based on the sun's movement. Even some of the symbolism, it is identical to the sun. There's 4 gospel accounts, there's 4 seasons, there's 12 apostles, there's 12 signs of the zodiac. The center guy is called the Son of God, and there's a sun that goes through the 12 signs. And although those things correspond not only in Christianity, but in Hinduism concerning Krishna, and in Buddha and Horus, Heru, we're told that this modern day presentation of spirituality doesn't have anything to do with anything that's pagan, right? And then we should do this and we should do that. And then a virus comes, and all that power that's behind them, they can't help people with that. They can only help people who attend their congregation, even though they claim to represent the power that created 250 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. What are we doing? Like, I don't get how you can be backed by that source and not cure a virus. But then you want everyone to listen to what you're saying because you took a college course and studied some scriptures and now you're prepared to teach. Okay, I understand. Meanwhile, you have people doing miraculous things that you throw a lot of dirt and mud on. I'm saying. So there's a lot of things that the coronavirus teaches us. And basically, that everyone under the sun is equal, regardless of who they think they are, because they all could be affected in the same manner by a pandemic or a catastrophic event. Even when you look in America, when you take off the psychological Halloween costumes of religion, basically all those people who fight over their religious belief, the Jews, the Muslims, the Christians, all of them live the same way of life. They all want the same things. They have children, they're trying to acquire riches, they have, funeral preparations, they have birthdays, not everyone celebrates birthday, but they're born into this world. So life is the religion. Life is the creator. And all things in life are principles of life itself. So the mind of life, the same energy that animates a devil is the same energy that animates a God. Life is This is the reality. It's not you have to be part of some church. It's good because you learn to cultivate yourself if it's taken in a certain premise. But it doesn't really mean that you're different than someone else who's studying a different form of theology. It's like martial arts. If I study Wing Chun and someone studies Taekwondo, I'm sure that I know personally that there's differences in these forms of martial sciences. However, if someone studies them and perfects them to the point that they can be the best that they can be, really their understanding of how the body moves wouldn't be different when they reach their mastership of that school. So perhaps theology works the same way. And maybe we need to demote leaders that promote separation through theology. Maybe. Um, that's really basically, the main thing about this message is that we're all dealing with the same thing, but then we're all dealing with sunlight. We're all dealing with a full moon. We're all dealing with seeing the Big Dipper in the north, moving 40 degrees from where it was from 100 years ago. We're all dealing with the same thing. And to say that one is different, that's only in appearance. Because in the reality of things, we're all living in the same world. So where are the same principle or aspect of life? So we have to carry certain things out. Some people see things like this and say, man, what is life about? Life is the all that cannot be understood. And we are just principles in that. But there's a greater purpose, a happy purpose, for man. And man doesn't really have a choice. As long as he's breathing, he's fulfilling his purpose. You look at plants, right? Plants, they've discovered have emotions about certain things. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it's really fascinating. I enjoy reading that more than I enjoy watching the movie. And when you look at plants, man, these dudes can sense. Like, there was one time where they had some dude in an experiment. He came into a room and tore this plant down. And there were other plants in the room, and the plants seemed to exhibit signs of fear. So a year later, they brought the same dude in the room, and the plants had a negative reaction to the guy because they can sense who he was. You know what I'm saying? But now when you look at plants, plants produce food through a process called photosynthesis, and they produce the air that we breathe. Like, they don't have a choice in that, and we don't have a choice in exhaling what we have inhaling or giving out emanations of finer hydrogens through our emotional constitution, which helps invisible worlds out. And our purpose here is to serve that need before we go back into the land of souls. And it's just that simple. Every ancient belief and most beliefs today, evolve around that. Most theological systems, magical systems, mystical systems all say the same thing. So there's very much an importance of doing the right thing the best that you can. You know what I'm saying? However, mankind is here to serve, and he's serving whether he thinks he is or not. He's serving. By you breathing, you're serving. When you're not serving, you out of here. You know what I'm saying? Because you're shedding emotional energy that's used as food for higher worlds, and it's also used for building blocks. And it's not anything morbid, because when you move on to the other side, you will have, you have a different work. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the reality. All our ancestors told about this, regardless of their culture. So if people saying the same thing all around the world, why do we believe in science and making us think that they're all liars? Like, all my ancestors, this, that, and the other. And then on one side of the coin, you saying this, and the other side of the coin, you thinking that they're liars. No, they was telling the truth. They know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? So you try to do the best that you can and pray for the best you can. And some of y'all may take special work, may want to become, take the lead in certain activities in the religion or in the covenant or just different things. But when you do that, don't think of it as a power trip, because you can only deal with what's in your means. You know what I'm saying? Mankind doesn't evolve until all of us evolve. And so while some may exert themselves more than others, they may be more in the lead of that. For us as a human family to move to our next step, um, as that water keeps purifying itself for rebirth, birth, and death, we gotta make sure everyone's on board. And that's the beauty of this reality, is that that's a process that's nearly eternal. But it's a process that will one day not exist and will be someplace else. So man is a seed. He's growing into his maturity as a race, the same way a child grows from a little boy to a man, you know. Um, and there's things that we'll learn, there's spiritually, that are not taught in the world today, in the future. You know what I'm saying? But basically, we were left the template and we just strayed away from it. And certain clowns assume positions of power. And I'm not talking about in the present day, I'm even talking about in more ancient times. And it just made things really a bit awkward in this stage of the game for human beings. You know what I'm saying? So, I pray for everyone that they can survive as much as possible, get through this thing. You know what I'm saying? All of us have to leave here one day. We want to leave where, we're aware that we're leaving. If anything is best possible. But it is a very difficult time. And, people shouldn't make joke out of those things. I had wrote a post. Um, Let me see if I can find it. Because this was, I think it was talking about Shinto and Armageddon. And I want to read it, a little portion of it, because um, I thought that, the attitude that people have today is just way out the box with certain things. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, yes, Shinto's view on the end of the world prophecies. And it's titled Shinto's View on the End of the World Prophecies of Growing Mental Disorder. And this is what it says that should be very important. I just wanted to share with the audience. Just imagine, if you will, an individual that finds ecstasy in discovering of the end of the world, a time when life on Earth as we know it will be destroyed. They feel so confident in their calculations that they begin exploring avenues for promoting this idea. As time moves closer to the estimated date that the world would end, these prophets will take delight, even joy, in seeing events that evolve the destruction of human life as evidence that validates their theories. They would gleefully get on their pulpits and boast how right they are instead of praying and trying to prevent any further loss in life. So, what it's saying here, whether it's conspiracy theorists or whether it's um, a religious leader or even a political leader or just someone who's a philosopher, these people promoting these fear based ideas and then feeling good that they were right, I think that's a little bit mental. I think it's a little bit mental because if enough people believe in something, it just may happen. You know what I'm saying? That's why people are forced by the sword or forced, I'm talking about a lot of different religions to believe in something so that what the prophecies say in that book can transpire and only few benefit. Because if enough people believe in something, it just may happen. So if you're going around promoting, the end of the world and all that kind of stuff, and you start gathering people to believe in that stuff, then, you know, those events you're going to invite in your life. Not everybody's life, but your life. Because when you close your eyes, the world as you know it has ended. And so you got to be careful with that sort of thinking. People promoting, end of the world type of stuff. The world is an idea, so it can end any time. The planet will always survive the world. And so, that's just some crazy stuff right there. You just don't want to get involved in, people talking this end of the world this and end of the world that. That's not good. You know what I'm saying? So you want to keep your head up. If anything, if you see where there's some inconsistencies, because there are some inconsistencies that I'll probably later talk about. There's inconsistencies in the news reports, there's inconsistencies with just so many different things concerning this pandemic of late. However, when you start feeding into, certain type of behaviors and stuff like that, why not try to create something that can counter even the idea that you have? Here's something to think about. In ancient times, and there's a book that discusses this. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. It was written by a doctor. I think it's Dr. Murphy. And he reveals that beliefs in ancient times was not like adhering to a creed. That's different. A creed is different than a belief. Okay, a creed states what an organization is about and the principles that they promote. You know what I'm saying? And they give a creed for a person to, inculcate into their psyche. A creed could be given, right? But beliefs, although we use the term loosely today in a layman's term, they can't be given because beliefs are the thoughts that you contain in your mind, whether you agree with them or not. And this is why when you understand that, because sometimes you have a lot of melanated people watching this video and they think that someone could be racist because they don't mess. It's not always that. Sometimes people don't want to be bothered because they understand the meaning of beliefs and they don't want to entertain certain things. And you say, wow, man, this is real, this is real. Well, that's your belief. For example, this is not an advertisement or a judgment call or whatever. So you have um, guys who uh, dress up like women or get certain changes done to their physical body. Now, the fact that that stuff is in your mind is your belief. That's how that works. Or you can have something where a person you know has all of this stuff with um where they're doing some real vile stuff. And if it's in your mind, it's your belief, whether you agree with it or not. Because if it's in your subconscious mind, you're carrying a germ that can unleash itself on someone else till it acts itself out, like the coronavirus. This is the real virus amongst man. It's his beliefs. That's his virus. Because, like the coronavirus, it may not take you out, but you could be a carrier and someone else can catch it and it could take them out. So it's the same thing with beliefs. If you are exposed to something that you don't agree with and you constantly bring it to mind, or just the fact that it's in your subconscious mind and you don't deal with it, cultivate yourself. Like a lot of times in scripture or in Buddhism or in the gospel accounts, you always hear this story about a gardener, right? And the gardener was tilling weeds out the garden. And what they're talking about is tilling thoughts out your mind to let pure thoughts grow. So those impure thoughts are weeds. You see what I'm saying? But this is an example of a perfect virus. It's the human psyche. And this is why the world is the way it is today, because people don't even understand the basic concept of what beliefs are. And now that we discussed that, how can people be a part of something and they don't even know what beliefs are? That's why a lot of times when you look at martial art films and you see the master, he doesn't really, he's not a dramatic dude. He's just a guy who tries to live as simple as possible because he doesn't want to contaminate himself with negative thinking. I don't care if it's true or not. It's still negative thinking. And if you foster it, if you harbor it, you can be a carrier and transmit it to somebody else. You see what I'm saying? And pretty much that's all I have for today. But it's just some things to dwell on, and hopefully, we'll get through this. This is me, Sal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, coming at you with another episode of Raw Talk. Peace.